So we are going to go ahead and call to order the annual meeting of the Board of Ed. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Second item is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second? Second. Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Right, board members, we have a lot of fun recognitions again tonight. It looks like a faculty meeting on our screen. Welcome everybody to the virtual version of our board meeting. I want to start tonight with recognizing our teacher leader cohort. I'd like to ask Brooke Wedgeworth to offer a couple of comments about this group of distinguished educators, and then I'll call their names out for you.
Just a little bit of background information, or a little bit of background on the Teacher Leader Program. We started it several years ago, and this group actually finished last May, and we had our last meeting remotely. So we had a hangout, and we're super excited to see their faces now and to be able to recognize them for their hard work. And some information on the program. Of course, we spend a lot of time and effort to grow our teachers professionally, but this is very much focused on leadership. And we're seeking to cultivate educational leaders from within our schools. We follow the National Teacher Leader Model standards. And so really our goal is to equip them to be leaders where they are in their classrooms, within their learning communities and learning teams, and then even across the district. They spend time collaborating on projects, and they identify the needs and create projects based on those needs. And so some of those are very much focused on their school. Others have been district-wide, and we are still have projects that came up, teacher leaders that are part of what we do each year. And so this group went from February 2019 until May 2020, and like I said, we wrapped up remotely.
Yeah, love to go to. You got it.
Okay. Quickly, I'll just share the goals from our Teacher Leaders Program, and this is our second cohort to finish. And we're excited that we'll have a half day with this cohort as well as our first cohort in July, just to hopefully re-energize and continue to help them and support them as they lead in their schools. But the goals of our program are to empower teachers as leaders in their schools and district, to connect teacher leaders in collaborative communities. And I will say, to me, and I hope some of them would agree, that's been one of the most beneficial things to me, is seeing all of our teachers across the district really collaborate and work together. So you might have a music teacher from one school, a 12th grade teacher from the high school, a kindergarten teacher from another school, the opportunity to collaborate, which they don't normally get to do. And then our third goal is to invest in professional growth to promote student achievement across the district. So we do have certificates for all of you, which we will be delivering to your schools. We won't deliver those virtually, but I would like to recognize the names of all of our teachers who completed this cohort. And if you want to wave at us when we call your names, you're welcome to do that. I know not all of them are here, but we will recognize all of them. Faith Linhart, Shannon Fulton, Rachel Kanan, Laura Casey, Bindi Visram, Heather Cantwell, Nicole Slowick, Jessica Sutherland, Catherine Bentley, Joy Braden, Mandy Smith, Maggie Blazing, Melissa McIntyre, Laura Booter, Nancy English, Chassie Waddell, Morgan Jones, Megan Humphreys, Elizabeth Burns, Pam Dennis, Amy Maddox, Stacy Pugh, Ann Bell, Lori Reeves, Shannon Shuford, Michael Sinnott, and Jordan Singletary.
Congratulations, class. I tell you, this is really a great opportunity. Brooke, Jennifer, thank y'all for leading. We're a little late getting you recognized, but you're certainly nonetheless deserving. Thank you guys very much. Our next group of recognitions are two of our students who continue to represent Vestavia Hill City Schools well at the Academy of Craft Training. Alejandro Vicente was named the March Employee of the Month at the Academy of Craft Training for excellence in building construction. And our senior Micah Johnson was named April Employee of the Month for excellence in interior, exterior finishes. And with us this evening, I know that Alejandro is with us, and I believe Ms. Denton, you are with us. Is that right? I'm seeing you out there, Ms. Denton.
Yes, I'm here.
Right. Any comments you want to make about our two scholars here?
I just wanted to say again how proud I am of them. They worked really hard to accomplish this achievement. I'm glad that our students keep getting recognized in craft. It's been a really great year.
Yep. And Ms. Denton, recently Craft had a graduation where they kind of announced placement or job offers for some of our students. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They call it signing day, and it's much like a student who would get a scholarship to play a sport at a university. The kids line up, and then they actually receive job offers from different companies around Birmingham. So it's a really cool event that Craft Academy does.
That is excellent. I appreciate that very much. Congratulations, guys. Thank you, Ms. Denton, for good work in that area. All right. Yep. Okay, our next recognition is our Vestavia Hills High School boys track team and coaches. Recently, the boys track team competed in April at the outdoor state meet in Gulf Shores and claimed the Class 7A state title. Ethan Strand won the 800, 1600, and 3200 meter runs. And the boys 4x800 relay team also took home the top prize. So we were an overall state champion. Coach Huber, I know, is with us. Not sure about the other members of the team, but congratulations, Coach.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman. This is exciting times for the track team. And this group got better every week, and I think that's why some people were surprised when we finished up. But I don't think the boys were surprised. But we have a lot of magical stories and some hard work, great coaching staff, and we really appreciate our parents. So there's a lot to talk about, probably not enough time right now.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Coach. And Ethan, we hadn't recognized Ethan in 2 months or so for breaking the state record, so glad to get him back. But I also want to note that our girls team finished third in the state and had some state champions as well. They had an excellent showing.
Yes, they actually got third in indoor and outdoor, which is very special. And I wish we had a bronze trophy. But in the track world, third is huge. So yes, we had a lot of great performances, and it's a great group in the girls team.
Yeah. All right. Great. Congratulations, Coach Huber, state champion.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Just recently, Vestavia Hills Elementary West has been named a 2021 National School of Character. And you've heard this before because we have one of the school highlights that earned this designation. Character.org is a national organization that advocates for character education in schools. Vestavia Hills Elementary West is one of just 47 schools across North and South America to receive the National School of Character designation this year. Excuse me. Each of the National Schools of Character were chosen based on demonstrated excellence in 11 different principles of character education and development. And at West, those principles are found in the West Way, which emphasizes the core values of kindness, respect, and responsibility. And boy, we sure can use those. Kim, Susan are both with us tonight. Congratulations on this acknowledgement and award.
Thank you so much. We were very excited. You know, we love academic excellence and matching that academic potential, but knowing that you can work for the whole child and demonstrate and instill good character traits is also very much a priority in our school.
Excellent.
Susan, do you want to add anything?
I would just echo that same thing. We're so excited about this recognition. So happy for our students and staff that model the West Way every day to be recognized for all their hard work. And it's an honor to work in a district where a priority is placed on character development and social emotional skills. So thank you for all of your support as we go in this journey together.
Very good, very good. Thank you, congratulations. All Our next recognition is what would be our third state championship of the season. It's Vestavia Hills High School boys golf team. I'm not sure if the members are with us, but I believe Coach Meadows is joining us. There they are, the whole class. Let me brag on you a minute here. The boys high school boys golf team took home the 7A state championship. The team competed at Robert Trent Jones, Magnolia Groves Golf Course in Mobile. The team took home the top prize after achieving a final score of 296, defeating Enterprise, Auburn, and Hewitt Trustful in the process. Golfers Parker Mullinger, Ward Harris, Jay Clemmer also finished individually in the top 10. Boys team, Coach Meadows, congratulations.
It was a great year. We had some really good finishes along the way, and you couldn't ask for 18 better young men to represent us and do the things that and the accomplishments that they had this year. So it was a great year, and we look forward to everybody coming back next year. We only have one senior, so look forward to several more years.
Wonderful. Great job, guys. So proud of you all. Thanks for joining us today. All right. I think I've got them all right, sitting our last one. Make sure we missed a lot today. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Okay. Well, today marks the last month, not probably the last meeting necessarily, but the last month for a 5-year term for Dr. Lisa Baker, who is currently as our president. I want to take a few minutes and express some appreciation for her, for the work she's done with our Board of Education. Mayor Curry is here with us tonight to say a few words. Yes. And I believe Councilwoman Cook is going to say a few words as well.
Right, if we get Lisa to come down and join us here.
I bet she'd love to.
She would.
Don't beat the dead. I said, don't. Where is this? Is this in front of the camera or over here? Okay.
I typically like to say right outside.
Well, we definitely want you in the center of this picture, but we just appreciate so much what Lisa has done. You know, if you think about this board and your tenure on the board, let me see if I can get them all straight. New superintendent. How about the purchase of a school? Two schools.
Superintendent.
Yeah. The purchasing of 2 schools, the rebuilding of those schools. Then we have the restructuring where everybody all knows which school am I going to go to. And I like Dr. Freeman's comment about they will all be great, and that's evident that they are. Then to top it all off, we didn't want you to go out without feeling like you hadn't done anything. COVID hit us. And we've got graduation coming up, and I'm going to tell those students and recognize you too that this would be the first class that's graduating from a full year of COVID. And the board and the superintendent, y'all know what y'all have been through this year. It's just absolutely amazing. So with that, I'd like to read this letter of appreciation from the city. On behalf of the city of Vestavia Hills, it's with great pleasure that I present to Dr. Lisa Baker this certificate of appreciation for your service on the Vestavia Hills Board of Education. Board of Education members have a long-standing tradition of providing vision for our school system and its students, and ensuring that system personnel have the resources needed to achieve that vision. We are grateful for your devotion to the city of Vestavia Hills. Civic engagement of our many volunteers is vital to assure a high quality of life in our city. And the mayor and the city council and all the Vestavia Hills residents deeply appreciate your dedication to this organization. And we wish you much success in the future. Thank you. You know, think about it. 5-year terms, volunteer. It's there's nothing else quite like the responsibility and the commitment that you have with your board, and we appreciate your time on the board.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a great board to be on. I mean, it's truly a privilege to be able to serve the community like this, and it's just a fabulous group of people.
Well, y'all done a fabulous job this year, to say the least. So I would say let's give her a round. All right.
Can I sit down?
And I also wanted to take this opportunity. About a year ago, we were sitting, actually, we weren't here in person, I don't believe, and we had appointed Scott Brown to be, 1 year ago, to be our newest board member. I never got to properly introduce you to anyone or to say anything about you except to the press, so I apologize for that. But I did want to let everyone know that we have appointed our newest board member, and that is Jay Stewart, who is here this evening. Jay is a graduate of the Vestavia Hills School System, and he is highly qualified. He is an attorney. He has an MBA and a law degree from Samford University, and he is just well respected in our community and very involved. He has 3 children, 2 have graduated already from Vestavia Hills, and he has 1 still in the pipeline at Fazitz. So we are excited to recommend to you Jay. We know that he will make a fine addition to this board, and just want to say thank you also. I know that Ashley already said that, but thank you all for your time. I know it's been a long year. It's been a difficult year. You've had some really heavy decisions to make, and I know that you always made them with the students in mind. So I just wanted to say thank you also. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So I wanted to give colleagues 2 moments to just make it even worse for you, these few minutes, but if they'd like to comment. But I would like to say that my first meeting with Dr. Baker would have been in January of 2018, interviewed for this position. And I felt like from the beginning we were kindred spirits because we both identified ourselves as introverted and started talking about the books that we'd read. And I thought, well, she understands me and how I am. But what I've learned with Dr. Baker is an incredible heart for children, and which is the essence of being a good board member, is you really love children, and you really love the whole child, and wanting the interest of all 7,000 plus of our kids to be taken care of. And on top of that, equally concerned about our staff and making sure that their interests and needs are met. And this year, I cannot think of a more perfect person to have sat in the chair of the presidency during this type year that we've experienced. And as a team, we've worked so well together, but it hasn't been easy. And Dr. Baker's been such a source of stability and calm for all of us. And I'm grateful that she chose to make this decision before I was ever even thinking about this day, but she's a part of the board. So thank you, Dr. Baker. Board members?
Well, since Dr. Baker's an introvert, we'll continue the embarrassment. Channeling Jerry Kent, which I thought I'd say. I guess Lisa and I, we've known each other about six years or so. We both have 2 girls, both the same ages, so we've had shared experiences and great conversations. The last year has definitely been an interesting year. People just don't realize the time that the board, much less Dr. Baker, has put in over the last year, much less the last 5 years. People think, oh, y'all show up once a month, you vote, that's it. No, there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes on behind the scenes, all hours of the day and night sometimes. Dr. Baker catches me recently a lot decompressing out in my front yard doing yard work and killing shrubs, and she comes walking by for exercise, and before you know it, 30 minutes has gone by and we've discussed board business or whatever the latest greatest thing is. So we've been friends throughout this. Lisa truly embodies a servant's heart, and I admire her for that. And she has not only a passion for our system, the kids and the teachers and personnel, but she has a compassion for it as well. We are unfortunately the business side of school, but Lisa definitely has a compassionate servant's heart, and for that, I thank her.
No, I'll echo that. I mean, this has been a year like none other, and while the four of us has spent a considerable amount of time, the board president takes the bulk of the emails, the calls, all of that for all of us. And this, I can think of no worse year to have had to have that privilege than this year. And Lisa has served us well. I will say that she responds to everyone, she speaks to everyone, and that is so important in this role. But she truly does care about the school systems. At times, we always have different opinions, and that's what makes a board great, is that we have different opinions, we come at different viewpoints. She has an education background, so we get to better answers when we all five collaborate and work together with our different backgrounds. And people forget we all have full-time jobs. Lisa has a huge job that's had to deal with COVID in and of itself at Sanford. And so I thank you for your time, your friendship while we've been on this board, and much respect for the 5 years of service that you've given the city.
I would agree. You've been the calm in the storm. She's so peaceful. It's just been a pleasure to work with you and to get to know you and build our friendship. And we're going to miss you, and I just hope we can continue our relationship. And thanks for your leadership.
Lisa, I will finish up. I won't repeat what everybody else has said, but I'll say I appreciate your welcoming me onto the board. Showing me the ropes, but also I think setting an example in a time where so many folks want to convince everybody of their independence. You've done a remarkable job of listening, trying to understand where other people are coming from, and causing us all to think and try to get to the best solution. And I don't think I can give you a higher compliment than that. So thank you for your leadership.
I would like to say 3 things about Lisa Baker. One is, Lisa, I'm happy that we became friends. 2, I'm glad that we got to work together for 5 years. And 3, most important of all, thank you, thank you, thank you, and I congratulate you for doing an absolute splendid job as a board member, working for all 35,000 of us. Thank you.
And to continue, just a small gift from the board, the central office, and the entire school system. It's not a trip to Aruba, but thank you very much.
Thank y'all so much. This is, I tell this story all the time, but when I was thinking about applying for the board, I talked to Matt about it because he was getting ready to roll off the board, Dr. Robin. And he said, I really think that all of the big things of the board are behind us. And I don't think he lied on purpose. But just it's a lot of work, it's a lot of challenges, but just the people that I've been able to meet and interact with over the last 5 years, just fabulous board members, and just, it has really been a privilege, just fabulous leadership, and just to see the passion in the whole city for the kids and the students and the families and the school system in general, whether or not you even have kids in the system, has just been, it's been an honor to be a part of that. So thank you for letting me be a part of that. And it is so hot in here.
All right, on the consent items, I would recommend item 5. I recommend the board approve consent items related to student transfer, overnight trips, and disposal of property.
You have heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So
Second? Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Item 6, financial statement. Ms. Brown.
Good
Good afternoon, board members. I provided the April 2021 financial statements and check register for your review. As of April 2021, we have collected 92.7% of our budgeted ad valorem tax revenues compared to 94% that we had received this time last year. To date, we have received 2.1 million more in ad valorem tax revenues than at this date last year. Although we increased the budget approximately $3 million from last year, we are well on our way to collect the total amount budgeted by the end of the fiscal year. Collections will come in more slowly, but they'll average $500,000 to $600,000 per month till year end. And our total expenditures as of April were 61% of the budget compared to 61.9% last year. And all board bank accounts have been reconciled as of April 30, 2021.
According, we anticipate end of year reserve approximately how many months?
About 1.4.
Okay. Thank you. Board members, I recommend approval of the financial statement for April 2021.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, on to business. Item A is our FY20 budget audit. This is a no action item, but one that you certainly need to be informed of as a board. Jason Harp is with us this evening from Carter, Riggs & Ingram, our auditing firm.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman.
Yes, sir. We're glad you're here and appreciate you sharing with us tonight.
Absolutely. Before you, you've got the audited financial statements, and as Ms. Brown will tell you, it seems like these expand every year with just few pronouncements that come through. And I think when I was printing it, it's up to around 95 pages. So not going to go through all of that, but I just want to hit a few highlights and a few things I think that are important. You have a report tab. If you'll turn to that, that's the audit opinion. This belongs to us, and what I always say is everything after this belongs to the district. So we're giving an unmodified opinion, which is highest opinion we can give on audited financial statements, and certainly something that you would expect. This report kind of goes through what all goes on in a financial statement audit. We're not looking at every single transaction, a lot of sampling, and a lot of emphasis on testing internal controls. We're not giving an opinion on that, but as you know, a good bit of your expenses are going to be payroll and regular disbursements. So we spend time testing controls over that because we really need to rely on that to be able to do our auditing procedures. So a lot of sampling, a lot of control testing. So that's what's kind of going on with this. And as you know too, these things, there's a lot going on. You've got two sets really of financial statements. You've got your fund financial statements, which Ms. Brown talks about, the general fund, special revenue funds, school activity funds. And then you've got what we call just regular financial statements that you're probably used to that contains long-term liabilities and long-term assets. And one thing I always point out with the districts that we audit, if you'll turn to page 5, and that would be the financial tab after the report tab. This is just what we're used to having as in DNA, and I think if you scroll on back, this is what you probably are familiar with just from a commercial standpoint. This is the most closest to just a regular balance sheet. But if you go about 3/4 of the way down, there's a couple of big numbers that you'll see that's common across all school districts, and that's your net other post-employment liability and your net pension liability. And those are really big numbers. Several years back, there was a change in an accounting rule, and we started recording those as a liability. And while they're very, very large, most of that will be taken care of through foundation funding. So that really represents what your piece of the pie, the liability, net liability is that the RSA has for your other post-employment benefits and your pension with them. So, take overall assets, subtract the liability they've imputed for teacher retirement, that's what you get. So that's what that's coming up with. That's nothing that's going to be due next week, but over the next 30 years, that will have to be funded. So a lot of estimates go in that related to actuaries. So we hope all that turns out to end like we think it will, or like the actuaries think it will. In other words, we're relying on the RSA to have a good return on investments for your OPEB. A lot of medical costs are baked into that. So if there's any kind of deviation with that, it can really change. And not that I would ever ask anybody, but if you turn back to page 30, government financial footnotes are probably not the most exciting thing in the world, but there's a couple of tables in here that I think is important to look at. But on page 30, there's a really good table that relates back to your pension, and you can see the RSA is using a 7.7% discount rate, and that's really their historical rate of return on investments, which is pretty conservative. Over the past 40 years, it's around 8%, so they're a little below that with the calculations they're using. But you can see what happens if that just goes up 1%, that cuts that liability by about $30 million. But if they miss it by 1%, it jumps up to 110 million. So we're really depending on that to end out like it needs to. And hopefully over the next 30 years, we'll do like the last 30 or 40 years and stay around 8%. If it does, that'll get funded adequately over that period of time and everything will be good. So anyway, just a little information on the big liability. The second thing I'd like to talk about on page 9 is just your regular fund income statement. And Ms. Brown, a minute ago, I know one issue at 9/30/20 was related to your 30-day requirement in your operating reserve and your fund balance. And you were a little bit below that at 9/30/20. That's been, resolved now. You certainly need that 30-day operating reserve as the state requires. The real issue, I think, that caused that was a lot of the transfers out for capital outlay for buildings. So we've had other districts where that was caused from operations. That can be an issue if you're just operating in the red. But since this was really one transfer out and you've resolved it, I don't see that obviously as an ongoing problem like other districts that continue to have operating issues and eat into their fund balance and operating reserve. So also in the back, and I won't get into a lot of detail, there's some required communications that we need to have just as auditors. A lot of estimates that kind of goes through what those are. As I mentioned, pensions, we rely a lot on fixed asset lives. That's important. We didn't have any disagreements with management. Those are the type things just back in the communication. We didn't have any findings that, arose to any level that needed to be reported to the board. So that was a quick 7 minutes of 95 pages of stuff. But anyway, certainly like to thank Ms. Brown and the accounting and finance department. She'll tell you 15 years ago, this was about half as big as it is now. And I'll bet 15 years from now, it will be double this size. They sent the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, sets the policy and the rules, and they seem to have something new every year. So that's something Ms. Brown has to deal with in her position to help us get in and do our auditing, and we certainly appreciate that. So not only has she got her day job, she's got to deal with us in this. So we thank her and Dr. Freeman for being cooperative and helping us get in and get out. So.
Questions for Jason? Well, the highest opinion equals great controls and great work on the financial side. Courtney's done outstanding work in her 3 years with us, and this continues. When we get opinions like this, all I can tell you is with an operation that approaches $90 million, that's very well done. So I appreciate the work Courtney and her whole team get all the credit for that. Thanks, good job. Thanks, Jason.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. All right, item D is election of officers for 21-22.
This is the fun part.
Yeah.
So historically, the way it's worked is the vice president is nominated as the president, although that doesn't have to be necessarily that way, as Steve and I talked about in his front yard. But at this time, I will entertain a motion to nominate a new president for the 2021-2022 school year.
I'll nominate Steve Bindall.
All right. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. The motion passes. Welcome, Mr. President. So at this time, I'll also take a motion to nominate a vice president. Any motion?
Jen Weaver.
All right, Jen. All right. And do we have a
No
second?
more introvert.
Second.
We've never been accused of that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, and we have a new vice president. The other piece that we usually vote on is that there is an allowance for the board to receive compensation. and typically we choose to forego any compensation. So at this time, do we have a motion to forego the compensation?
Do we know what the compensation is?
We've discussed this again.
We haven't got a clear answer.
Because we are really not sure what it is, but not needing to know that specific number.
Any thoughts, Jay?
Yeah, Jay.
Oh, but Jay can't vote yet.
I'll pay this in your hands.
So moved.
So moved. And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Item D is a 21-22 board meeting calendar, and I recommend the board approve the calendar 21-22 as submitted.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation, the motion to approve. So moved. Second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Item E is an indemnity resolution, and I'm going to recommend the board approve the indemnity resolution as submitted.
Heard the superintendent's recommendation, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like Mark Board Administrator this evening to address this with you. Something we inquired about not too long back. Board?
Pass out to everybody, coverage agreement. Recommend to you that you consider indemnity for the Board of Education and superintendent. You've just decided that you will forego, as have all previous boards, the remuneration that's allowed by Alabama law. You're working as a volunteer. Your service to the public and to the city schools should not be an invitation to be sued. Unfortunately, Alabama leads the nation in lawsuits against educators or people employed by boards of education. In some years, there are more than suits in Alabama than the next two highest states combined. And that's not on a per capita basis. That's number of lawsuits. As Board of Education members, you can protect yourself potentially by insurance or coverage agreements. You have, and that's what I just passed out to you, coverage through the Alabama Trust or Boards of Education, as do all boards of education in this state, save for one. But that coverage is not coverage that covers everything. No insurance policy can cover everything. For example, there's a limitation on coverage for everything. There's a limit as to how much somebody would pay in your defense. I've represented individual members of one Board of Education in South Alabama who were sued repeatedly because of sexual misconduct allegations brought against an employee. Actually two students brought these lawsuits. One of these went all the way to the Alabama Supreme Court. Unfortunately, there's no way to protect yourself from that by insurance. For example, the coverage that I provided to you has a sublimit for this type of thing, and it's $100,000. That's the most you can buy. But that $100,000 includes any money that's paid to defend you by the lawyer, includes a claim handling expense. And as you know by these verdicts, they are enormous verdicts when they're ruled against an institution like a Board of Education or a church or a university. There's also things that simply aren't covered by insurance. Those would be, for example, discrimination cases. And in another Board of Education where claims of racial discrimination was brought against the individual members of the Board of Education. Not that y'all, or in that situation, they had any personal enrollment or involvement, but because of your role, because you are the members of the Board of Education, you could be individually named as they were. Or other cases where that simply are no coverage at all under insurance. That'd be one for Board of Education north of here. It's facing 300 claims of overtime wages. Under the law, federal law, those overtime wages are paid at triple or double, and you have to pay the attorney's fee. Those members of that Board of Education were able to get out of the lawsuit, but that's not even covered by liability lawsuit, liability insurance. So for all those reasons, there's good public policy reasons too. First, obviously, your public service should not be an invitation of being sued. But second, and the law recognizes this, in fact, the Alabama Supreme Court has specifically put that in one of their opinions where educators were sued. If we don't provide protection to the individuals who make the decisions, then those decisions were made in ways to avoid vexatious litigation. How's that the case? Well, take a chemistry class or a PE class, vocational training. The best way to keep somebody from being injured is to tell them how to do it, but don't let them do it. Nobody gets hurt reading Shakespeare in English class, but they do get hurt in PE or chemistry or vocational training. And if you tell them how to do it, but don't allow them how to do it, how can you properly prepare our youth for their future? So to avoid vexatious litigation and for good public policy, indemnity is the appropriate thing to do for all members of the Board of Education, past or future, and present, of course. Same thing with the superintendent. So for that reason, the resolution in front of you is that indemnity for past, present, and future board members and superintendents.
So we have a motion, all in favor?
Appreciate your work on that. Thanks, Mark. Item F, I recommend the board approve the bid for renovations at Vestavia Hills High School field house.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Do we have a timeline on this?
Hopefully by, end of summer, late July, early August.
Yeah, just a little description of what we have going on here.
Sure. So you have the board members have the bid calculation there in front of them. This was a April 22nd bid. David Acton Building Corporation won the bid. And we're pretty excited looking at two different projects here. Both of them dealing with the field house. One of the projects will be a communal space for coaches, student athletes, different groups that will schedule that space with coach seekers. And it will be a meeting space. It's the classroom that sits off the track. And so we're going to spruce that up and make it a better space for coaches and student athletes to meet in. The second part of this, which is the base bid, which you see there before you, is renovations to the football locker room. And that'll be self-funded by the football program.
So the first part of that project you mentioned is multi-sport use.
That's correct, yes.
So a lot of our sports are able to use that facility. Which is great. Okay.
Perfect. All in favor?
Aye. Item G, I recommend the board approve the contract for renovations at the Vestavia Hills High School field house.
For the superintendent's recommendation, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Item H, I recommend the board cancel the contract for parking and drive improvements and postpone the project to a later date.
For the superintendent's recommendation, do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second?
Second.
Mr. Boone. You want to offer any comment on this one, Mr. Boone?
I'd be happy to. Dr. Freeman and Dr. Martin and I, last Monday, a week ago today, had a conversation with the chief legal counsel at the public examiner's office. The background is this. The city of Vestavia Hills entered into a 3-year paving service contract with Dunn Construction. The city has routinely entered into contracts of that nature. The city needed 86 streets or portions of those streets. 21 miles of paving needed to be done, went through the bid process and everything was fine. And then the board decided that it needed some paving services at the campuses of East and Freshman campus. Boone on paving contracts suggested that the city and the board enter into a joint purchasing agreement, which is provided under Alabama law. And the board and the city both approved this joint purchasing agreement back in January of this year. And lo and behold, last meeting, we approved the contract with Dunn to do these two projects. Somehow or another, there was some mix-up on who was going to do what. So I wrote a letter that outlined exactly what I have just said with instructions to Dr. Martin, said, send this to everybody, the DCM, the examiners, PC, the public school, college authority, so that everybody will know what we were doing. Lo and behold, the young lawyer who's in the position disagreed with me. And so Dr. Freeman and Dr. Martin and I had a conversation with him last Monday morning. I was unable to change his mind. He was unable to change mine. But you know, the one that holds the cards gets to rule the game. So at my recommendation, I suggested that we did the project. Dr. Freeman said, let's just postpone it for a while. And the bottom line is, I said, okay, if you don't mind telling me from a practical standpoint why this agreement's no good when the statute authorizes it. Well, the city did it and the board didn't. Okay. That was basically the reason. Patrick, is that right?
I would agree.
So here we are, and there you have it.
So that attorney's email address for all the moms and dads hitting potholes or.
Well, he couldn't have been nicer. He just happens to disagree. He didn't convince me, but I certainly didn't convince him.
So now we'll have to go out for a whole new bid package?
We will, and the complexity on this is that it's a PSCA funding contract, which means this. We could bid the job. Once approved, I have to then get contracts, and that's about a month's worth of time. We basically lost the window during summer to get this done. So that's, and unfortunately, we'll probably pay a higher price when we do. But that's, we will do as we've been advised. So.
All in favor?
Letter I recommend the board approve the contract change order for Pizzitz Middle School renovations.
For the superintendent's recommendation, do we have a motion to approve? Okay. Second? Okay.
This is a good one, we'll get money back.
Yeah.
The credit. Good work over there, keeping that one in line. Give you this credit on this.
Belongs to you, belongs to me.
All in favor of this one?
Okay. Item 8 is personnel, and I recommend the board approve the personnel actions as submitted.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve? So moved. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I'd like to share with you an administrative report on operational plans for this summer and bring you up to speed with that. As you know, back in April, in our last meeting, Dr. Rainey talked to you about instruction, teaching and learning, the things that we're expecting next year. So I wanted to go ahead and address the things relative to anything outside instruction. So what's going to keep me up here? First thing I want to talk to you about is a very important event that is coming up, and that is on Tuesday, the 25th, a week from tomorrow night. Our graduates are going to graduate at Thompson Middle Stadium. That's exciting. We went there last year, not by choice. This year it was going to be a little more difficult to seat the number of people we wanted to at Sanford. In fact, I don't know that we could have got 2 tickets each at Sanford just based on the provisions that are in place currently with our partners at Sanford. So we elected to do this again outside. We're able to get 6 tickets per graduate this year, which I think is outstanding. Face coverings and masks for this event are optional for students and all attendees. And that's a really good way, I think, to send our seniors out the door. It's given them an opportunity. Alternate graduation plans have been made for graduate families who do not wish to attend the ceremony. That's important to point out as well. Dr. Roselle has informed me we do have a few that have chosen not to do that, but we want them to have a ceremony that's special and befitting. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that. That's exciting. I can't wait to see them walk next week.
And we have a rain date, right?
We do have an alternate that this following night.
I love that virtual option too. I think
Yes, and it'll be live. Thank you for mentioning that. It'll be streamed live for anyone who can't see it. We started that last year, and that's a great option as well. Yeah, thanks. Okay, I want to cover 4 things for summer activities. This is effective June 1, 2021. So I'll talk about 4 habits for health, vaccinations, general operations, and employee leave. So 4 habits for health, as you know, centered around was our focal point of public communications about how we wanted to make sure that we kept our students and staff safe by talking about hands and home and head and our health in general. And so what we want to do is continue that conversation. Of course, our guidelines look different. So face coverings and masks are optional for employees and students and visitors. That's effective June 1st. Of course, we want to continue emphasizing wash your hands. I think that's as good advice as we can continue to give. Our nurses have been telling us to do that for a long time. That's good advice. Stay home when you're sick. Be free for 24 hours. That's been our typical position over the years. And I want to address the issue as it relates to close contact and quarantine protocols. Those remain in place for this reason. COVID-19 is considered a notifiable disease by public health. Other such notifiable diseases can include tuberculosis, measles, etc. Notifiable diseases we've had them for a long time, and public health has for many years done close contact and quarantine when it is reported a notifiable disease to them. So for years, our nurses have reported these type things. Because COVID-19 is a notifiable disease, beyond the governor's health order expiring, this does not expire. Our nurses will continue to have to report cases that we're made aware of with a positive COVID-19 diagnosis. The difference, however, is because the volume is much different now. We believe public health can largely handle close contact and quarantine. We've been partnering with them all year, and I can tell you our nurses have had numerous conversations throughout the year with our public health officials in Jefferson County, talking about close contact and quarantining. The goal all along has been to try to minimize the number of students that miss. That's why we've had certain things in place like seating charts and overflow areas, and that's worked very well for us. But because there's been such large volume, our nurses have had to be a part of this, and I think it's been a great exercise because our attendance has been excellent this year. So that's a mark of good work. But because those numbers are considerably down, we believe that it's best served for us not to have to be involved in close contact quarantine, other than just making our required reports for notifiable disease. So there still will be examples where that may happen, likely happen as long as this is in place, that there may be some quarantine, but we certainly think it's going to be much less.
So by and large, it's a little bit different for our families. You won't get a call or an email from the school nurse saying your kid's quarantined. You will get a call or from Jefferson County Health Department.
That's right. That's the way the process is supposed to work. And we believe that it can work comfortably that way now. With rates, in summer is a really good time to see this because certainly there's so much less activity on campuses.
So if a child is sick and it's believed to be COVID, then the parent is responsible for notifying?
Well, what we do is, well, if we find out, if one of our staff members find out, we report that to our nurse administrator, but within internal reporting to public health.
Mm-hmm.
They take it at that point to do the close contact investigation, quarantine. But I would tell you, had we not done it the way we did it this year, you can only imagine how long it would have taken to get to the point of quarantine conversations. And as frustrating as that's been for parents from time to time, that's kept a lot of our kids in school. That's been a positive. Okay. Yes, sir.
Quick question. Say a student is classified COVID positive. How long will they be quarantined? Will they be able to go online while they're being quarantined?
Yes, and we still will have instruction. We'll still have components in place where we can give instruction. The weekly glance will have some modified version, I think, of that will be probably more user-friendly, knowing that most of our students are coming back. The vast majority of students will be coming back. But certainly there'll be those cases where we may have a quarantine. The one thing that's obviously helpful if people choose to do it, and let me just say it's a personal choice, is vaccination. So if you're vaccinated, of course, there are different rules for you in terms of quarantine. If you're not, you have to follow quarantine rules. So, and they'll still be in place in fall. It just won't be.
We expect them to do the same in 10 days.
I don't anticipate that changing. Yeah. So
what is the rule with the vaccination?
Vaccinations, the State Department has said they will not require enrollment. They will not require vaccinations for enrollment in public schools in Alabama. I don't anticipate Vestavia city schools do anything different. So that's really a personal choice that people make.
But if you've had a vaccine, you cannot be quarantined.
Yeah, the rules with vaccine, if you've had it and you don't exhibit symptoms, you don't have quarantine.
That applies to faculty and students.
That's right.
What'd you say?
It applies to faculty and students.
So since vaccinations are now available for age 12 and older, that captures majority of middle school. I think it's fall before what the medical people say. There may be some vaccine available for younger than that. But, obviously that's the lowest risk group in terms of getting and transmitting.
Do we anticipate AHSAA making the stance one way or the other as far as vaccinations?
I can't speak to that. I would be surprised, given their approach this past year, which was more allowable to a lot of events.
Yeah.
Worked well, so I would be surprised if they took that position. I know that's a much debated topic right now, but the state superintendent has clearly said it's not going to be a condition of enrollment. I can't imagine it rippling down into other facets of public health. General operations, of course, we'll do cleaning and disinfecting the way we normally do. We're going to ask our visitors to continue to check in because that's the support we'll need with contact tracing. They do that anyway. Classroom seating charts, support for contact tracing, we'll do that this summer. We'll be closing overflow classroom spaces. We don't need them this summer. I do not anticipate that we would need them in the fall. Transportation operates routinely and field trip approvals will operate routinely. So you get the picture. This summer we're moving certainly to a more normal operation. One point to make to you is relative to employee leave. For much of the year or 3/4 of the year, we were using the Families First Coronavirus Recovery Act leave, which allowed for family medical leave for employees that there were issues related to COVID. This last 9 weeks, I told you that we would have leave only related, if we had to do leave related to COVID-19, it would be administrative leave, so we wouldn't adopt any further FFCRA provisions, but I do not believe we have used that this 9 weeks. We have not had an employee we've had to use, had to use leave. So beginning the 1st of June, we'll be back with normal procedures for leave, sick person on vacation. All good signs.
And just a reminder, he has until the end of school to decide if they're
Yeah.
going virtual.
Yeah, thank you. We have until the end of school for parents to determine to us if they wish to go full-time and virtual next year. Our count as of last week were 5 students who had indicated an interest to do that. So you do have till the end of the school year, parents to do that and submit to us. And that's a commitment again for 1 year.
Is that being communicated via email?
We sent that out last meeting after the board meeting. I suspect we'll do a reminder. If we have that on calendar, I'm sure we'll do a reminder. Other questions related to operations?
Do we expect, I know we'll get this, do we expect full capacity athletics?
Well, again, I'm not sure what HSA will do. I'll be surprised given that we're seeing colleges come out and say they're going full capacity. I would expect, Broadway has said they're going full capacities, and that was the epicenter of COVID. So it just seems to trend that way. I'd be surprised if we did. So I would argue some venues we went to this year did have full capacity.
Will our
So
classrooms,
not in Vestavia, but we
will
can.
the classrooms still be distanced, or are we gonna be getting rid of the shelves?
Well,
and all
CDC
of that?
has conflicting guidance on some of this because they allow and say that you can have 3 feet of spacing, but the quarantine rules still apply. But our spacing will look more normal because we'll close the overflow spaces. And again, there's, is there a risk still for someone to be exposed? Yes, but there's that given risk, the flu and other type things.
Sure.
But I think we're at the point, obviously, that we get we think we can get back to normal operation.
We just say we'll open back our lunchrooms.
Yeah, maybe cafeterias, and the fall didn't allude to it in this report, but I would expect our lunch operation will look normal as well, and I anticipate we'll have boxed lunches, we'll have
lockers?
Served lockers would look normal, be in use again.
That's good.
So, but we would not have to be in classrooms. So I should finish this by all saying, anything could change, but the trajectory right now certainly suggests that's where we're going to be.
Good.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Very exciting.
All right, it is, absolutely. Okay.
All right. At this time, I will entertain a motion to move into executive session for the purpose of discussing the preliminary negotiations involving matters of trade or commerce in which the governmental body is in competition with private individuals or entities or other governmental bodies in Alabama. I want to remind us all of the following. No action can be taken in an executive session. There will be no vote taken in an executive session. No minutes of the executive session will be made. I request Dr. Freeman, Mark Boardman, and Mr. Jay Stewart attend the executive session. I estimate the executive session will last approximately 60 minutes. Following the executive session, the called board meeting will reconvene. Mr. Boardman, can you comment on the motion for an executive session?
Yes, Dr. Baker, as an attorney licensed in Alabama, certified at the Vestavia Board of Education, the board can meet in executive sessions as to legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation, controversies not yet litigated, then likely to be litigated, or controversies likely to be litigated if the court pursues proposed course of action. Any action the course of the board takes must be done in executive session. This implies Alabama Code 3625A, 7A3. You've answered the other stuff by the anticipated length and who's going to be in it. Now you can vote.
Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right.